Welcome to Across the Desk and our new series in partnership with Maddy Dever, the Autistic Rambler. Maddy is a non-binary autistic advocate engaged in political advocacy, a parent of 5, and a very funny person. I think we're going to have a lot to talk about, and we look forward to you joining the conversation. Now let's get to rambling. I mean, we are so far off this. So, good morning and welcome to Across the Desk. And we're jumping in with the Autistic Rambler and my lovely Maddy Betty Dever. And it's a weird day.
Yeah.
It's a weird day.
Yeah, it's I was gonna make a chess joke about queen to queen, but
Probably not today.
Yeah, I know. That would be a rook mistake.
Oh, you did it anyway.
I did it anyways.
So to timestamp, yeah, you know what? I thought I was going to be okay, and I'm gonna power through it.
It's okay to not be okay, you know,
and that's said that to somebody at a funeral.
Yeah, it's okay to not be okay. Things happen in our lives, and you know, there is no way we can avoid feeling the feelings. And if we try to avoid feeling the feelings,
they come out our eyeballs anyway.
We may be able to get through the day, but it's gonna be harder to get through it later. So, you know, this is the advice I tell my kids when I can see them struggling with their emotions when they're having one of those days, that it's okay to not be okay.
Maybe that's our topic for today. We'll do a shorty. So we have 3 topics to cover today, but to timestamp, one of the reasons my emotions are leaking out my eyeballs is the Queen died yesterday. Even saying that out loud.
I know. It's we've had a queen for 70 years, all of our lives.
Yeah.
And some of the milestones in the royal family we've experienced as kids growing up, as you know, adults, as you know, parents with our kids. I mean, we're in Canada. Canada is you know, our queen is Elizabeth, and I think, you know, when she's 96, you know that it's at some point going to happen. You know that her husband, Prince Philip, died last year. Like you know that it's coming, but you don't have any awareness. It's not real until it happens, and then even after it happens, there's these waves of emotions, and she's. It's weird because I know the way I felt when my mom died and when my dad died and when my grandparents died, and like there's a level of grief in this that's
similar, isn't it?
Similar. It's similar.
It's like she's been a part of the family.
Yeah.
And my parents,
she's a distant relative, but one that we kept, you know, one that we kept getting the newspaper clippings
very many
about.
generations removed. But my parents are from. I'm wiping my eyeballs here. My parents are from the UK, so I'm first generation Canadian, and I mean I'm white as the driven snow. So this is not in any way you know, a poor me thing, because I've led a very charmed life. And my husband said I won the golden ticket, in that my parents could have left the UK and chosen anywhere, and they chose Canada. And not just because it was part of the Commonwealth and still is, but because we already had family here and it made sense, and it was an easy transition, although they left all of their family behind. So I mean, I don't minimize that in any way, because we have a huge family back in the UK. My dad was same as you. I've lost both my parents, all my grandparents, all of my main family except my mom was gone by the time I was 24. And I've always, maybe that's what the Queen was for me, because I've always missed that connection to what I consider my second home, because that's where all my family is. That's where a big part of my heart is. And that's what the Queen was for me, I think, was a connection to all of them. And my mom was a monarchist. And we used to talk about the Queen, and we had Jubilee parties like we were talking about before. And I just don't know anything else. I mean, I don't know anything else but having the Queen in my life. You said something, and maybe this is where you gave me an idea. So maybe we'll run with this a little bit. That
Sure.
I had to go to a funeral on Saturday, a long weekend. And I was a Girl Guide leader for a number of years. And one of my Girl Guides at the age of 23 has lost their mom. And so we went to the service to support this young lady, and kudos and whatever. The challenge that I saw, and if anybody's listening from that service, and I don't mean this in a critical way, but I think everybody was forgetting that she's 23.
Yeah.
Everybody was expecting her to be okay and be the hostess and be introduced and, this. And my daughter and I were getting ready to go because Mariko was in my guide unit with Vanessa. And I turned and I saw, and I've already said her name, but the young lady's face. And I said to Vanessa, I'm like, we need to get her out of here for a minute. She just looked lost.
Yeah.
And overwhelmed, and she was being absolutely remarkable. But I said, honey, let's step out for a little bit. I said, it's really kind of warm in here. So this was under the guise of being warm, but I think she just needed a break from the crush of people. Her arms were full of cards and papers. And I said, here, there's a place out here. We can go and put those down. Let's go take a little break. And then somebody came out and found her and tried to drag her back in. I'm like, she needs a moment.
Yeah.
And she said, she said in the service, like it wasn't a service, it was a gathering, whatever. She said, I don't think I'm okay. And I said, sweetheart, what you said before is exactly what I said to her. I said, it is okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
The day of all days, this is the day not to be okay.
Yeah.
I said, and I said it, and I get that. I said, I just lost my mom 3 years ago. She was my best friend. I get it. So let's step out. Let's give you a moment to not be okay. And so we just went out and talked with her and loved on her a bit and gave her a break. And I don't know, there was a few of her friends there, so they were making plans. And my daughter is a personal trainer, so I think they're going to connect over that. And she's got a bit of a struggle ahead of her. And
yeah.
And I think one of the most poignant moments for me, for the Queen, was when Diana died.
Yeah.
And everybody was ripping on her for not running back to Buckingham Palace and, being a presence to the people. I'm like, stand down. She's a grandma.
Yeah.
Her kids don't, her grandkids don't call her granny for nothing. And she's a mom.
Yeah. First.
And she knew Diana.
Yeah.
Before any of you claiming our people's princess crap.
Yeah.
And when the Queen came on and had to remind people, as a grandmother, my first priority are my grandchildren.
Yeah.
And while I mourn with all of you, I have to keep, and I at that point, because in 91, and this ties together, I promise. It's a bit of a ramble, but it ties together. Ramble. Oh, what does it ramble? Yeah. So my father passed away when I was 20, and at his funeral in 1991, stiff upper lip. I did not. You just got it done and tried very hard not to be crying and stiff upper lip, and you don't show that level of emotion, and this is public, yada, yada, yada. And I remember I was near the front entrance or something. I'm not quite sure what was going on. And my dad's business partner came up to me and he said, says, Elizabeth, how are you doing? And this was the gentleman who had to call and tell me that my dad had died. Not a good day for him either, right? And I said, Mr. Holiday, and I swear to you, I was sane at the time. I swear to you, what I'm about to say came out of a sane person's mouth. I said, I don't think I'm doing okay. And he says, okay, that's okay. I said, no. I said, I keep crying. I just can't seem to stop crying. And honestly, he's looking at me like I have literally lost my new, which I probably in retrospect had. And he's like, well, no, that's okay. Like, it's okay that you're crying. And I looked at him and I said, no, no. I said, Barrises don't cry. That's my maiden name, by the way.
Shocked.
Yeah. Oh, you pun on that, right? Yeah, that's not yet. Not yet, Betty. There's a whole
I have
bunch you
some.
can do with that, but
There are some that popped in my mind, but I'll let you continue.
yeah, you won't be the only one. There's a reason I took my husband's name when I got married. Yeah. And by the way, those of you who think it's sexist for a woman to take a man's name when they get married, sometimes you're leveling up because my last name was spelled Barrass. You can go with that. Not yet. So I went from, being referred to Elizabeth Barrass to Mrs. Plouffe. Who's got to choose? Mrs. Plouffe. It's Plouffe. When people screw up your name, I had the choice of Barrass, Bearass,
Yeah.
Harass, like all kinds of, asses to Plouffe or Pluff, which, whatever. So sometimes, ladies, we're leveling up.
Yes, it's either Pluff or Minus.
Oh, I never had that one. That's a good.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So I needed to understand at that age that it was okay not to be okay. And I don't think we do that enough for people. And I know, we'll tie it back to the autism community that mental health and health services and having to fit in and all of these constraints and all of this bullshit that gets tied together with societal expectation. You know what, folks?
Yeah.
And I don't mean this against autism, but it is okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
It is okay to say you're not having a good day. It is okay to stand out and wear whatever you want to wear and be who you're going to be. Like,
yeah, it's these last 3 years, especially during the pandemic, where everything has changed and things change again and things change again, when there's absolutely no certainty, there's no consistency. It has been a
you're not helping with my mental state here, Betty.
Well, it is not. It has been a hard thing to deal with the emotions behind it, and I have had so many autistics, kids, teens, adults struggling with it, and it comes back down to it is okay to not be okay in a time where in a time
Where Instagram
barring
makes it
everything else,
shiny and everything, everybody thinks everybody's okay.
yeah, barring everything else, it's a tough time.
Yeah.
So it's allowing ourselves to have those emotional times, allowing ourselves to be down, allowing ourselves to to need help, to need support, even on in a life that we might be stoic, amongst other things.
Mm-hmm.
If we can, as a society, learn to be kind and patient with ourselves and kind and patience with each other, then the days like yesterday where another big massive change in our lives, it's
mess.
We need to let our emotions flow so that we can be able to get through it. When we hold in emotions, when we hold in the really big stuff,
It makes us sick.
It physically affects us, and we then have the physical manifestations of the stress we're feeling, but we also we lose the control of our our emotions, of ourselves, of our self-control in a bigger way. And that is something that a lot of autistics struggle with.
That's
because
really cool.
Yeah, because we do not, when we don't know how to express something, and we feel that we have to hold it in, we have to mask, when we have to be something, and we don't get to process that emotion, or that don't get to process that emotion healthily, we then get everything comes out somehow, right? The emotional energy, stim energy, any type of energy that we're dealing with, if you bottle it up, at some point it's going to come out. And if you do not find the way to safely let it come out, you're gonna lose. You're gonna run the risk of losing control when it does come out, and that's always problematic for autistics because, like, we're looked at as android robots who don't have feelings, and then when we have the feelings, it's like your behavior problem. Like
Oh,
there's
and
the
when I
balance
said cool
between the
before,
two.
yeah, when I, it's just a very, because I said cool because you said such a really cool thing, which is when we hold them in all the time, it
Yeah,
makes it harder for us to handle them.
yeah,
Right. So something that could be inconsequential to somebody, right? The last cookie is gone, whatever, whatever. There are certain days of the month where the last cookie is more important to ladies than others. And there's some days where, like, I don't care, the last cookie's gone, whatever. There's other days where I'm going to rip you a new one because you have taken my cookie.
yeah,
That could have more to do with, like you mentioned before, the level of stress and uncertainty and whatever that somebody's dealing with.
yeah.
They haven't been able to ever let that out. You're gonna, that Mentos experiment with
Oh yes,
that's what's gonna happen. Like if you need a visual, that's
yeah,
literally you're just all of it
yeah,
is just
yeah.
coming out.
Let it go.
It's either coming out your eyeballs, it's gonna.
Yeah.
So another personal overshare. Um,
Brought
what
to you
am I
by.
brought to you by my ass? So literally. No, there's a there to tie your thing together there. So dad died when I was 20.
Mm.
There was a lot going on at that time, that part we don't need to worry about, but I ended up with a gastrointestinal issue and nobody could figure out what was going on. And went through umpteen tests, and this is where my hiney comes in, and ended up in a gastroenterologist's office.
Uh-huh.
And I'm telling you, every way you could get violated having a test done to figure out what's going on with your innards, I was a part of that.
Been
Super
there,
happy.
got the ticket.
Oh, got the got the tickle. So sitting there with a gastroenterologist, and he's like, look, basically all your tests are fine. Like he says, you got a small kink in your colon. He's like, but radiologists are full of shit. His words, not mine. And
Mm.
they just like to find something. I said, okay. But then he looks at me rather quizzically. Now, for a timestamp, I'm 21 at this point, 22. I'm now 52. So 30 years later, this made an impression.
Yeah.
And he looks at me, he says, I want to ask you a question. I'm like, okay. Like, you've seen my bum. Like, what else can you? There's no other way to be vulnerable. And he says, if you gave somebody directions and they got lost, how would you react? And like any true autism adjacent individual, I needed options. And I said, well, that was a pretty concrete, right? And I was like, well,
Yeah.
like I said, that would depend. And he looks at me, guessing that nobody has answered him truthfully before. And I said, if I give you directions and you go A, B, C, D and you get lost, okay, like something went wrong. Let's work on that. And maybe I gave you the wrong directions. But if I tell you to go A, B, C, D and you go B, C, D, A, I'm going to hand you your ass. And he's so this specialist is trying very hard not to laugh at me, has to look down, collect himself, and come back up. And he said, okay, you're an extreme type A. I'm 21.
You're type A plus.
He says, you're an extreme type A. He said, I could give you medication to go, not go, all kinds of pills to make you this, that, and the other. And he says, quite frankly, you need to take up yoga. I was like, solid. Okay. So I have been toying with yoga off and on for 30 years.
Okay.
I have never implemented a consistent, effective mental health program that involves exercise, that involves I did try therapy, and I ended up arguing with one therapist and telling the other to stuff it up his jumper. So that didn't go well. I tried group therapy.
No, what you should have started Groot therapy. I am Groot. I am Groot. I am Groot.
That would have been more effective than the freaking thing I did. Anyway, so I have tried all of that. I am not ever saying you shouldn't. If that works for you, that is amazing. And I'm so happy for you. And please don't ever hesitate to go and check it out, because I did check it out. I would never dismiss it out of hand, but I then put it aside. That has been my biggest mistake. Because ever since I tried and kind of went, all right, well, you know, I tried this, I tried that, blah, 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 blah. I've not done anything consistently since, to my detriment, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's I for the last 6 years, I have been seeing a counselor every 2 weeks, and we basically she calls it our popcorn sessions, because it's like, all right, tell me all the things that have happened in your life in the last 2 weeks, and it's like it's always something
like a
interesting.
pinball machine.
But it's like, for me, it's not about fixing anything; it's about venting it out. It's venting it out so that I can stay in, and handle all of the crap that all of the crap or all of the excitement that happens
that you can't predict
in between those. Yeah, I mean, like, things happen all the time. The last 3 years, there's been a lot of things happening.
Another timestamp. We're just finishing up a pandemic that's been really shitty.
Now this is a note to our future selves: ignore that, because we understand that may not be the truth.
What?
Ending a pandemic. We keep saying that.
We are in the wind down of a very intense period of health-related crap that was a maelstrom of BS and I fully believe in COVID. I fully believe in vaccines. I fully believe in the variants. So I am in no way dismissing that as a very serious thing that we've done. But there's been a lot of pukaka around it as well, just disruptive and stress and whatever.
Yeah.
I am not a conspiracy theorist. Don't start writing to me to say, I too believe that COVID is because of the flat world, because I will shut you down. But there's just been a lot of unpredictable, non-deadlines.
Yeah, we've had so many waves that it's hard for us to keep our hands up now.
You're just on a roll.
Okay, so on a roll.
What happens when you have caffeine before we do a podcast?
So I think so. Now, I was thinking that why is it a bad idea to lend money to a gastrologist?
If you can't say the word, you can't make the pun.
Okay. Okay, but I'll tell you why.
Okay.
They're always in arrears.
Okay. Are we done now?
We keep having the butts and asses keep coming all through this.
It is a butt assy kind of day.
It really is.
Anyway, moving on. The point of that story was it's important to take people's advice.
Yes.
On some level.
Yeah.
What I tell my son is, if it's one person, it's an opinion. If it's two people, okay, we're getting closer to fact. And if it's three people, it's you, not them. It's right. Like,
yeah.
One person can come up to me and say, you're the B word. And then I can be like, oh, that's just you. When it got to the point where many people were either referring to me as the ice queen or the B word or whatever, I'm like, all right, maybe it's me.
Yeah.
And I made some very serious changes as far as my level of judgment and my level of reactiveness and my level of dismissal. And I have a very, 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 very tiny empathy button. And you would think it would be bigger given, there's been like majorly huge things in my life. But what that's done for me has been like, suck it up. I got through it. What's going on with you? Not effective when you're trying to be collaborative.
No.
Not great. No. So I have worked at trying to be more understanding of what I can't see going on with somebody. Mm-hmm. And I have worked very hard to step back and go, we were talking about it the other day, and it fits, I promise, that there were times when I'd see a woman in an outfit that you're like, oh, damn, that's an interesting choice. And either the woman just didn't fit properly, or it was just a very odd combination or whatever. And now I step back and go, good for you. Mm-hmm. You feel confident in that? I don't know if you've lost 200 pounds and like, this is your new swanky body. I don't know if you're getting over being sick. I don't know if there's something about that outfit that inspired confidence for you. I don't know. So if you looked at that and you went, hot damn, I am going to strut my stuff today. Rock on, sister. Do your thing.
Yeah. One thing about autistics,
There's only
is
one
that one of the things,
thing.
one of the things, um, okay. If you ask us our opinion on something,
Be prepared.
be prepared for
Unabridged version.
exactly an unfiltered, right, straight from the heart response. And it when people ask me, I've gotten, I'm 46 now, coming close to 47. I've my approach to things has changed, especially a lot in the last 10 years, especially more in the last 6 years.
Yeah.
I had so many issues in growing up where people would ask, well, what about this, what about that, and I just bluntly say what I thought, and there always be surprised when I got a negative reaction. So I now I if somebody asks me something and I'm like, do you want me to tell you what you think you want to know, or do you want to know my actual thoughts?
I'm laughing with you because now, starting in my early 20s, this started when I was 21, 22, and somebody asked me for an opinion that I knew was not going to be nice, I would say to them,
Yeah.
want me to tell you the truth? I didn't put anything else on it, but do you
Yeah.
want me to tell you the truth?
Yeah.
And if they said no, I'd be like, then it's better I don't say anything right now.
Yes. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Which is what my
One of the
mommy
first things
always
I
taught
learned.
me.
Yeah. First movie I ever saw.
But if they said yes, I still tried to be kind because I do have a very cutting personality. So I would try to hedge it. But apparently even my abilities to blunt it were still quite
yeah. Well, I mean, you're a person who has strong opinions as well as passions behind things. So it's not surprising that there's there's an oomph behind everything you're going to say, right? Even if you are trying to soften it. I mean, okay, you're softening it. It is okay. You take a big hockey player, right, with these big pads, right, and they go in gently to body check somebody into the boards. It's still gonna hurt, right? So like you can put all kinds of more padding around you. You're still got the momentum of your opinion, and it's not a bad thing. Some people.
I also have resting bitch face, so that adds a layer.
RBF, eh? Okay.
Oh, and it's okay. All right. I know I'm jumping in.
Go ahead, jump in.
But it's funny. So genetically, I swear to you, was looking through a box of photos that I haven't looked through for a while, and I spy my Auntie Eileen. And if you're listening, Auntie Eileen, I'm calling you out. It's my mom's younger sister. And she's given side eye, like fierce side eye. This is like back in 1977 before resting bitch face was a thing. And I'm like, it is genetic. And then I saw my daughter at work one day, and she's like 14. I don't know how old she was, pretty youngish. And somebody asked her to do something. Full bitch fit. So her supervisor left, and I'm like, Burr! I said, I'm really sorry. It's genetic. I apologize. You come from many generations of women do this.
Yeah.
But you got to get this under control, because what the F just kind of went out her eyeballs. Oh, it was crazy.
Watching my girls, which of the characteristics from which family members they have picked up on.
Crazy, right?
My oldest, when she's angry, has this like solid intensity, and you do not want to mess with her. I mean, which I'll do, but because I'm me. But
say that a lot.
Yeah,
like, why are you like
I
that?
know. Well, I okay. See, the thing is, I don't like passive aggressiveness. And I don't like outright anger bursts. Yeah, like meanness, especially mean anger.
Anger I'm okay with.
Yeah, anger is one thing, but it's like
meanness not okay.
But I may or may not poke a lot of buttons, push a lot of buttons with my kids
She
to
just said
get
poke a lot of
reactions.
buttons.
Buttons.
Oh, I'm like, he's taking that
No,
out.
I don't poke their buttons. I only poke my own. Um,
That's Maddie.
all right. Well, anyways,
You're blushing.
no, it's the light hitting the pink shirt.
Yeah. You keep saying that. Sally.
There's a lot of butt stuff today. Um, anyways, like I may or might poke buttons. But they have each like my youngest when she's got the look and she stares down people and like she's it's this solid iciness, except she's so darn cute that it doesn't have the intended effect. But she's like, I'm giving you the look.
Oh, so my mom used to call it the hairy eyeball. And but the queen had a hairy eyeball. Like
Uh-huh.
you knew. That's one thing
Yeah.
to go. There's a couple of
Yeah.
things I want to, but the queen, you knew instantly
Yeah.
when you'd pissed her off.
We are not amused.
No, man. There was no, there was solid
Yeah.
hairy eyeball. Or my mom either called it the hairy
I
eyeball
know.
or the furry eyeball.
And that, I mean, honestly, that's actually one of her most not I'm not gonna say mocked, but mimicked
Oh
trait. Like
yeah, that face.
the whole we are not amused
That's actually Queen
meme.
Victoria said that, not her.
Oh really?
Yeah. That's
Okay, well,
attributed to Queen Elizabeth, but that was a Queen Victoria saying, which we are not amused. But the Queen
yeah,
side eye,
exactly.
like
Yes. Uh-huh.
seriously skilled on the side eye. But what you just said about poking your daughters, so and not in a dirty way, but poking the buttons, can't. There's no way I can clean that up. So I think what happens though, what immediately came to mind is that you have made it safe for them to express themselves in your home
Yeah. Yeah.
because you have set up that relationship of parent. I hesitate slightly to use friend, but yes, friend. But you have made it safe to do those things. And they know that that is one of the ways when they are not okay, that
Yeah.
they can work towards getting to be okay.
Yeah.
Because you allow them to vent in whatever way works, right?
Yeah. They can
And when
say
it's,
whatever, however,
yeah,
and I will love them. And I'll love them through that.
but also the fact that you poke periodically, you recognize the necessity of sometimes provoking an outlet. So if somebody
Yes.
is, I am in no way suggesting that you start smacking people around to get them to talk to you, because that's no bueno. Don't do that. But as a parent, I do that periodically with my kids too. When I know
Yeah.
something's going on, and I'm not, trust me, I'm sure there's plenty of stuff I have absolutely no clue about, but there are also some things where I have been a bit
Instinct.
intuitive with it.
Yeah.
And my kids have been like, oh, how'd you know? I'm like, because
Yeah.
your mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I do. So I think that's
And,
amazing that
yeah.
you
And
have chosen to do that way.
it's and with the three girls, it's like they each have their own way that their buttons need to be pushed. And it's like when I say pushing their buttons, it's not to like one of them, it's I will outright make her laugh. I will find whatever way to completely crack her up because she's tense, right? And she
Yeah.
lives with a lot of stuff that she's dealing with, but she needs to be brought into the hysteria so that she can, come up
Release.
for air.
Yeah.
And one other kid, like humor is not the way to help her. Humor, it's not the way.
Shuts her down.
It's sitting beside. It's letting her ramble. It's it's liking or commenting on the Instagram posts of whatever thing she's cosplaying about now. That's what she needs, and she has so many
Validation.
cosplay. Yeah, and another kid, she just there's sometimes she just needs deep talks. She needs to get away from everybody else and just breathe and then have the deep conversation. We did on Tuesday. I texted her after she came home from school and say, "How was your first day?" And I could tell from her answer it
Oh,
was mixed. So I was like, you know what? why don't I come over? I'll grab you something from Timmy's, and we'll go for a walk. And we did that, and she took her a bit of time, and then she just we talked about all of the different aspects of her day, and it wasn't that it was a bad day, but it was just
not
exhausting.
okay.
Yeah, it was not. And you can't just ask her questions. You gotta let her. You gotta give her the place to give her the space. And she does react to humor, but I know enough that she likes to ride the wave of some humor, some seriousness, some humor, some serious. And she absolutely, I think she's the kid that loves my randomness the most, but also likes to know that somebody really considers her opinions important, and not.
You also reinforce that. I'm going to back up for a second because my son gave me a bit of an eye opener a couple of years ago. And obviously that stiff upper lip of mine is a bit of a challenge. And I'm a bit of a serious.
I hear Botox does well.
That stiffens it more. We don't want more stiffness. We want to relax.
Your lower lip, so it's all in. Anyways, go on.
Seriously. So I've just always, like, from a very, very young age, independent, get it done. That's just always been my go, right?
Yeah.
What I didn't realize was what my son was seeing was that I was doing it all myself. What he didn't see was the amount of help that I got, right? So either through books or videos or conversations I was having with peers at networking groups or whatever that was. And a couple of years ago, he was doing his visual and creative arts at Sheridan, and he was struggling a bit with one of the courses, right? So my son's also dyslexic and excellent reader. He also has a fine motor visual integration issue. So physically writing, not great for him. Typing, like the thoughts that come out of him, he's a smart guy. I've had him tested, like Sheldon's mom. He ever comes out with something boneheaded, I'll be like, I had you tested. That's no. And he's like, yeah, I'm not doing great with this particular course. And he was really afraid of failing. And I said, okay, well, like, why are you afraid of failing? And well, like, failing doesn't feel good. I said, okay. I said, but you know what would be worse? And he was like 19 at the time, something like that. And he looks at me, he's like, what? What could be worse than failing? And I said, not failing, ever.
Yeah.
I said, going through your entire life in that little safety puddle of not doing anything. I said, I wrapped it up with him saying, look, there's 3 things you can do with failure. I said, you can change why you failed. You can change how you feel about failure. And you can change how many times you fail, because the more you fail, the less you're afraid of it.
Yeah.
And you find more solutions. And he's like, but you never ask for help. I was like, what? He's like, well, you do everything. You never ask for help, because I was getting on his case about not asking for help.
Yeah.
Said, sweetheart, that's so no. I said, I ask for help all the time. Maybe, well, to me, it seems like all the time. I said, if I have a question or a struggle or whatever to do with my business or, just entrepreneurship life or whatever, I said, you can bet I go to people smarter than me. I'm like, why wouldn't I? Why would I keep cracking my head against a wall instead of asking for help? And I think where I have failed my kids is not demonstrating good mental health habits, and not, like, I journal and I do some other stuff and I go for walks and I get together with girlfriends periodically and whatever, but I don't think I have demonstrated good attention. And sorry, I'm pausing because I'm trying to say something without saying something. My daughter needed support with something and absolutely refused to get help with it. And I'm thinking back now, is that because that's the example that I set, that you just buck up? And I thought I had done better than my parents, but maybe I didn't.
We just fail our kids differently. It's
spectacularly.
We don't make the same mistakes our parents did. We make new ones, because that's humanity. Yay, in a box.
That's what we need.
My mom, I love her so much, but she gave me the attitude that I could do anything. And so I
Firmly
did
believe in
lots of
that.
things, and I did lots of things and whatnot. But
And
when
whatnot.
I would be failing, she would step in and blunt the effect of that fail. I didn't, when I was young, I did not get to experience the effect of
Oh,
failing. And but you know, my dad had my dad had the philosophy that the best way to succeed is to fail.
yep.
Because like the failures are just as important as successes. So when I played sports, I didn't mind losing. I mean, I didn't like losing, but I knew that that it was part of getting better to win more and to be better. So
It's just
I
one day, just one
and
game.
and so in my 20s, when my mom wasn't really able to blunt me from the failures, and I had some spectacular failures, it was harder for me to know what to do to pick up from them because I didn't have that experience.
Yeah.
And my sister and I talk about this a lot. That's like we're old enough now to understand our parents' failures, also to understand that parenting is a you are given no
A shit
instruction
show
book.
of
It's
failure.
all yeah. It's like we've struggled enough for our own kids to have peace with our parents for failing us in those areas where they did.
Mhm.
But I look back though, and like it's the her she her heart was in the right place. Um, and
Probably thought you
I
were already
what
dealing with enough. So what can
yeah,
you? Yeah.
and where with my kids, like I try to I have this philosophy of parenting, where there's this big box of boundaries, right? The wall of the boundaries is where I need to put my foot down. These are the absolute important things
Yep.
that my kids can't do or they should do. But everything in it, the older they get, the bigger the box is.
Yep.
I want them to experience things. I want them to succeed. I want them to fail. I want them to ask for help on how to do it, but to learn to fix things themselves. And
Asking for help is not a failure.
yeah, and I have one child, which I won't mention which one of them, has a real difficulty in asking for help, and they know it's a pride issue. They know that they want to do it themselves, but they're you know, I think they intellectually know that they need help, but they're also fighting this core belief that they are the ones that will fix things, that we can't trust anybody else. Even though they intellectually know that they can trust some people, their core
Very
belief is that it
vulnerable,
hurts.
but it's a vulnerable place to
Yeah,
put yourself, right? And if you're dealing
absolutely.
with multiple things, like we've mentioned before, that you know, school systems and all kinds of things, they breed in this they either build learned helplessness
Yeah,
in individuals who have struggles, because there's the perception and the bias towards the lowest common denominator, and so falling into that learned helplessness, what I found is if you ask for help, then they smother you with help,
oh god, yeah,
and
yeah,
then they don't let you then take on any kind of risk or go above the
yeah,
expectation because you've asked for help. That
yes,
must mean that you can't cope with anything else.
yes.
And I think when we do that mixed message of asking for help, well, yes, you should ask for help. But then if you also have a diagnosis,
Mm,
the perception is that you need help with everything.
yeah, exactly.
And it's
and
like,
and
no, 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 just one thing.
Yeah. What I tell my kids is that I'm here to I don't want to smother them. I'm here to mother them amongst all of their other mothers. It's I need to
You're
be
a mother
along
from another
beside you.
mother.
Exactly. I don't know. I I my role is to come alongside them
Yeah.
and pick them up when
Mm.
they fall so
Periodically
that they
kick them in
can
the ass.
maybe why they fell, but
I might have tripped them,
exactly.
but I'll help you
Again,
back up.
exactly.
Solid.
It's just exactly. It's the path of life. Um, It's a circle of life.
No, my son and I do that when we go over the Skyway Bridge because we tend to be hitting the Skyway Bridge just as the sun comes up, and a couple of
Oh
times
my
it's been
gosh.
we have an interesting relationship.
Well,
Um,
exactly.
which makes it
Yeah.
fun. Anyway, so we began. This was not our topic for today,
Nope.
and I'll be honest with you. Before we started talking, I was not okay, not okay at all. And as soon as Maddy came on, and one of the reasons is that I know with Maddy, if I come on, and I don't do this often, like, but if I'm having a moment,
Yeah.
there's going to be no judgment. There's going to be no whatever, and I don't cry in front of many people. Um, which is probably another thing I have ingrained in my children, which is not positive. Um, I was a hot mess. And, Maddy asked a very good question. Are you okay to do this today? And no, I was not okay to do this today. But sometimes you need to do things that you're not okay to do. And I'm never suggesting you should sacrifice your mental health. But what you should do is evaluate the payoff of pushing through a difficult moment to get to something that is going to help you feel better. And after every time I talk to you, Maddy, every single time, I learn something, I laugh my ass off, and I feel better.
Yeah,
Every
I feel the same way. I mean, I realized in our pre-chat that, the stuff that we were talking about when what we're talking about is really how to have good grief, how to grieve something and live,
Yep.
and it's in talking with you, like it, I, I'm I've been is significantly affected by the death of the Queen and having these moments, these waves of emotions. But talking with you today has really helped. Um, this is I don't think we would ever. I don't know if we would have chosen the topic of grief.
Nope.
I don't think so. I don't think it was something that in a list of 100 different topics we would have like plucked. Like, yeah, let's talk about griefs and have a good cry session
It's a
today. All right.
vulnerable.
Oh my gosh. But it's something that's so needed because we live with grief. Grief is part of the human process. And grief is a difficult part of the human process. And we either stifle it or we're overwhelmed by it. And and both of those things are natural ways of
Yeah.
dealing with it. But talking it through and again the core message is,
Ask
it's
for help.
okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
And ask for help, stand beside somebody who's grieving and be there when they need to, and ask for help. When you feel that your grief is so much that you're barely treading the water, let alone
Riding
swimming
the wave.
right in the wave. Yeah, exactly.
And keep in
Um,
mind, folks, that grief doesn't necessarily have to ascribe to losing a
yeah,
human, right?
friends
Whatever,
moving away, losing a job,
grieving an
losing oh
opportunity,
my God.
grieving a
Yeah,
relationship, grieving whatever it is. What somebody told me when my mom died, which has helped a lot, is that in a human way, right? So when you lose a person or a fur baby or whatever, grief is love with nowhere to go.
yeah, that's right.
And what I have been doing with that is doubling down on my volunteering and doubling down on donating and doubling down on, making the planet better for autistic individuals and everything that my mom stood for, which was service, just like the Queen. Here we go again. My mom was about service. My mom was about community. My mom was about helping others. She was also about brutal honesty, and not always in a good way. Um, and she shared that with the Queen. The Queen was all about service and community and dedication to duty and what have you. And don't get me wrong, yes, there was some stuff that's happened with the monarchy, not positive. This
Yeah,
is not the day to talk about that, though.
yeah,
I'm not saying ignore it, but Don't share those mean memes. That's just mean, man. That's not okay. It's not okay today. It's some, a family has lost their mother and their
Yeah.
grandmother and their
And
aunt and their friend, and
yeah, I
be
like
kind.
the fact that there's a mourning period, and
11
you can
days.
be, I know, yeah,
Aloha.
and honestly, that's like, it's a good time to respect and acknowledge the person that was,
Hmm.
and the way that they affected you, and so 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now, if people want to get angry and talk about the monarchy and talk about this, that's a good time. But I think
However,
there's a reason for a time where we respect the dead because they're human, and I say this a lot, and I try to remind autistics, I try to remind people with disabilities that your value isn't in what you've done. Your value, is inherent because you're human. And they have, the queen has kids, grandkids, people that work
great
with them, people
grandkids.
that work for them. Yeah, like there's a family, as and people have come, like the queen has represented, you know like she's the matriarch, she's the mother, there's that kind of relationship that people have.
Yeah.
Not to say that there's all the other negative side around it, but there's a humanity part to this. And you know I this is not an opinion that some people share, but it's, there is a time to grieve and to respect the loss that people are feeling.
Hmm.
And I we most of us have never had to experience the death of a monarch. We have, there's very few, there's a small percentage of people on the planet that experienced this 70 years ago. But we're doing
My
this
aunties
now.
and uncles have, but I mean, they were
Yeah,
young kids, right? So they didn't have,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, it's so this is all new to us. But we just, bringing it to personal. When you have experienced loss and grief, it's everything you're feeling. Your feelings are real. Your feelings are valid, and um, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to ask people just to stand beside you.
And it's okay for it to
Um,
be on your timeline.
yeah,
I will preface that by saying, if it's been more than 6 months and you are still in the bowels of your grief,
yeah,
get some help. The person or situation that you've lost, I'll stick with people right now, would never want you to stay in that state for that long. Does that mean you can never be sad again? Absolutely not. It was about a year after my dad had passed away, and I was visiting somebody, and I brought something up, and I got a little sad about it. And they looked at me and they said, "Aren't you over that yet?"
oh God, no, no, it
Now,
never ends. It just,
they not only had their biological father, they also had a stepfather who had been
yeah, so they
raising
have no
them.
idea.
And so I said,
Yeah.
"What now?" What did you
Yeah.
just say? And they looked at me and they said, "Well, aren't you over it yet?" And I said, "Well, seeing how we can go back to your place and you can call either one of your fathers, I would say you're not really in a position to judge."
Yeah.
Well, my parents got divorced, so I sort of know what it's like. And I looked at her and I said, "Well," I said, "my parents also got divorced. I could still call my dad after my parents got divorced and go see him. I can
Yeah.
assure you that's not an option. I now have to go to a cemetery and look up a wall and imagine the little box that I had to put in there. So don't ever say that you can understand in any way what I'm going through until you have even a niggling of
Yeah.
experience to deal with that."
Yeah. Every milestone that goes by that I can't talk to my mom and share it with her, it
Yep.
hits me again every single time.
And that's
Every single,
okay.
actually, anytime anybody dies, it triggers it again. It
Well,
just, yeah. And it
this
like,
year's
does it get better? It gets different.
it gets manageable.
Yeah.
Yeah. On Saturday, it'll be a year since my friend Karen was killed.
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate that this year I will be with my friend Stephanie, and we've been friends since we were 9. So that's 43 years for those of you who are doing the math. And then in October, it'll be 2 years for my friend Julie, who chose the MAID program because of her cancer diagnosis. And I signed her paperwork. In November, it'll be my mom's, what would have been her 82nd, 83rd birthday. And then we get to January, and that's when both my parents died. It is not recognizing those dates. It is not acknowledging what has caused you grief. It is not wallowing. It is not somebody else's timeline. It is understanding, like we said at the beginning, that it's okay to be okay. When the not being okay is getting in the way of living, it is okay to ask for help. And when the not okay is getting in the way of living and you don't ask for help, are you setting an example for those around you? If you happen to be a parent, if you happen to be a sibling, whatever, are you showing others that that's, you don't ask for help. You just, either let it take you under or buckle through. And so there's a lot of things to take out of this that's, not directly related to grief, but how you model behavior around just managing your mental health every day. And, the point Maddy made earlier around when you manage your mental health more effectively, either through exercise or journaling or whatever works for you, talking to somebody, then when those unexpected things crop up, like a pandemic, like losing the queen, like whatever, losing a family member, then you're better able to manage and the waves don't take you under. And that's what we're here to chat about very openly and honestly, is how we've both struggled with that. And there is strength in asking for help. And there's strength in acknowledging when the help you've asked for isn't working for you. So if the first avenue you've tried wasn't successful, okay, that sucks. Try again. Because when you stop trying, is when you run into very not okay.
Yeah.
And we want to avoid that. Right? So on a happy note, God bless the Queen. Thank you for your service. A life of service is something that I have strived for many, many years. I've been a volunteer for 30 years. Something about my personal life and professional life always has to have a service component.
Yeah.
Because you leave the world a better place, and that's what we could be doing. I'm just honored to have known of her.
Yeah.
To be named after
her. Yeah.
Pretty freaking cool. And inadvertently, I discovered so was my mom, because Elizabeth's full name was Elizabeth Alexandra Mary. Did not know that.
One of my daughters has a middle name, Elizabeth.
See, we're just cool people.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a crown yet, but I'm working on it. I'm just saying. I'm not kidding. I'm getting a crown pendant. It's coming.
It's coming.
It's a coming. Oh, and I have a Queen Funko Pop on the way.
Oh, so Freddie Mercury?
I'm tempted. That's another. Okay, so we're gonna wrap up for today. If you have any comments or questions or feedback or whatever, if you need help, if you're in your area, please take a look. I mean, don't go to Dr. Google, but there are plenty, I'm sure, in whatever area you might be listening from, of services that you can access. Reach out to a friend, crack open a journal, just do something that is going to help you have a better day, and you're going to be okay. All right, Betty?
All right, Betty.
Decided to call Maddy Betty periodically, and then that just, helps.
It's just so wonderful. Yes, absolutely. It just makes me so smile deep inside. Wait, that's my stomach rumbling. I'm hungry for, okay.
Yeah, solid.
I have to watch which is what.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody. Maddy's going to stay on. We appreciate you listening. And next time, we're actually going to talk about what we should have talked about. And what was the one? Was it the growing your strengths?
You know what? We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. We have a bunch.
We have a bunch.
We talked about intersectionality of neurodivergent diagnoses. We talked about, it was IEPs. That's what we were getting
that, yeah, yes.
And my
it'll be a teachable moment.
Oh, yeah. What I put in our notes was the suckage is real. And I've dealt with IEPs for a long time. Advocacy is an absolute necessity or nothing will happen. And then we'll be going into what should support your child and making sure that the IEP doesn't get weaponized, because it can happen.
Yep.
And also managing your expectations of what a school can provide realistically, because I think some parents get into this maelstrom of the school must do absolutely everything, and the country neither has the budget nor the resources for the everything to be the be all and end all for your kid. But having said that, you do need to advocate to do the best with what you've got and then fill in the gaps otherwise. So tis what it is, but that is what's coming up. That was what's supposed to be today. Darn that queen for dying when she wasn't expected.
Oh, I know.
Little cheeky monkey. Know. All right. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate your time, and we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us on Across the Desk and our new series, The Autistic Rambler. Please visit spirocareerscanada.ca to learn more about the tools we're building with the autism community, and please visit theautisticrambler.com to learn more about Maddy Dever.